What if I told you the Civil War wasn't just fought with guns and cannons, but with whispers, secret codes, and dangerous double lives? While armies clashed in open fields, a hidden war unfolded in shadows, where a single stolen letter could change the fate of thousands, and one charming smile could hide a deadly secret. Women disguised as socialites, spies posing as loyal friends, messages written in invisible ink. This was a battlefield where trust was the greatest risk. Tonight, you're stepping into the secret war history almost forgot. A world of deception, courage, and silent heroes whose choices shape the destiny of a divided nation. Stay with me because the truth is far more dangerous than the myths. We'll explain everything in this video step by step. Don't skip it. History often remembers war through thunder, the roar of cannons, the smoke of burning fields, the clash of marching armies. But beneath the noise of the American Civil War lived another war, a quieter one, a war fought in whispers, in coded letters folded into coat linings, in stolen glances across candlelit rooms. It was a war of secrets, and sometimes a war of souls. Because while soldiers faced bullets on the battlefield, spies faced something more uncertain, the slow erosion of identity. They lived in shadows where truth became a costume, loyalty became a question, and survival demanded deception. This is the story of the Civil War's hidden front, a world of spies, secret codes, and double agents whose stories shaped the fate of a nation divided against itself, the birth of invisible armies. In 1861, when the first shots echoed across Fort Sumter, neither the Union nor the Confederacy truly understood how to wage a modern intelligence war. Yet both sides quickly learned that information could be deadlier than gunpowder. Railroads, telegraphs, and newspapers spread news faster than ever before. Armies needed to know where their enemies were moving and, more importantly, what they were thinking. And so began the creation of invisible armies. The Union relied on men like Allan Pinkerton, a detective turned spy master who organized one of the first intelligence networks in American history. Pinkerton's agents infiltrated Southern circles disguised as merchants, laborers, even sympathizers. They risked not just death, but erasure. If caught, they would vanish without honor or recognition. The Confederacy, equally determined, built its own secret networks. Their spies traveled through enemy territory, carrying hidden messages sewn into dresses, tucked into boots, or concealed within hollowed-out books. Every journey was a gamble with fate. Women in the shadows. One of the most striking aspects of this secret war was the role of women. Many underestimated, many overlooked, yet profoundly effective. Harriet Tubman, already known for guiding enslaved people to freedom, served as a Union spy and scout. She organized intelligence networks among formerly enslaved communities, gathering information about Confederate positions and leading military operations. Her courage blurred the line between liberation and espionage. On the Confederate side, figures like Rose O'Neal Greenhow moved through Washington's elite society, gathering secrets from powerful men who underestimated her influence. Her intelligence helped shape Confederate strategy early in the war, proving that sometimes the most powerful weapon was not a rifle, but a conversation. These women lived double lives, constantly performing roles to survive. They attended parties, wrote letters filled with coded phrases, and carried secrets that could change the course of battles. Every smile they offered concealed a deeper mission. Codes, ciphers, and the language of secrecy. Words themselves became weapons during the Civil War. Messages could not simply be written. They had to be hidden, disguised, transformed into puzzles that only trusted eyes could understand. Spies used cipher disks, invisible ink made from common household substances, and complex substitution codes. Some messages were hidden within ordinary letters, their true meaning revealed only when read in a specific pattern. Others were transmitted through telegraph lines using coded phrases that appeared innocent to casual observers. The Union eventually developed more sophisticated signal systems, including flag-based communication that allowed messages to be sent across battlefields without sound. Meanwhile, Confederate agents used couriers and secret routes that stretched across enemy lines like invisible veins. Each code was a promise, a fragile thread of trust connecting people who might never meet face to face. The double agents' lives divided. Perhaps the most dangerous figures in this hidden war were the double agents, individuals who navigated two identities at once. Some were motivated by ideology, others by survival, and some by simple opportunism. They passed information between sides, sometimes playing both armies against each other. But living as a double agent came at a cost. Every conversation could expose them. Every friendship carried risk. One of the most famous Confederate spies, Bell Boyd, charmed Union officers into revealing sensitive information. Meanwhile, Union agents infiltrated Confederate leadership, feeding misleading intelligence designed to confuse and delay enemy movements. Double agents existed in a constant state of tension, never fully trusted, never fully safe. They walked a tightrope between truth and lies, knowing that one misstep could lead to execution, the moral cost of secrecy. Espionage demanded sacrifices beyond the physical dangers. Spies were forced to deceive friends, betray confidences, and sometimes manipulate the people closest to them. Letters home could never reveal their true lives. Identities blurred until some agents struggled to remember who they really were. Was loyalty defined by one's uniform or by one's secret actions? The War of Shadows also raised ethical questions that still echo today. Was deception justified if it saved lives? Could a nation claim moral high ground while relying on lies and manipulation? These were questions that spies carried long after the war ended, invisible wounds that history rarely acknowledged. The legacy of the secret war. When the Civil War finally ended in 1865, the armies disbanded and the cannons fell silent. But the lessons of the secret war remained. The intelligence networks created during the conflict laid the foundation for modern American espionage. Techniques developed by Civil War spies, coded communication, undercover operations, organized intelligence gathering, would shape military strategy for generations to come. More importantly, their stories remind us that history is not only made by generals and presidents, it is shaped by ordinary people who step into extraordinary roles, people who operate in silence, carrying the weight of secrets for causes they believe in. Closing reflection. The Civil War's secret war was not fought in open fields or grand halls. It lived in hidden compartments and whispered conversations, encoded telegrams and masked identities. It was a war where bravery meant invisibility and heroism often went unrecognized. And yet, these spies changed the course of history. They revealed how wars are won not only through strength, but through knowledge, through understanding the enemy's mind as much as their movements. Their lives remind us that the most powerful stories are sometimes the quietest ones, stories of people who chose to step into darkness so that others might one day stand in the light. Because history is not only the story of battles fought in daylight, it is also the story of shadows and the people brave enough to live within them. When the Civil War erupted in 1861, both the Union and the Confederacy marched into battle believing victory would come through courage, numbers, and superior firepower. Yet almost immediately, commanders on both sides realized that knowledge, quiet, precise, and timely, could determine whether an army advanced into triumph or stumbled into disaster. The chaos of early campaigns exposed a frightening truth. Generals often had little idea where the enemy truly was, how many troops they commanded, or what plans were unfolding behind distant lines. Rumors traveled faster than facts, and misinformation spread like wildfire through camps already tense with fear and uncertainty. Out of this confusion emerged the first organized intelligence networks of the war, born not from grand design, but from desperate necessity. The Union's earliest intelligence efforts began as scattered attempts by scouts, sympathetic civilians, and soldiers willing to risk slipping behind enemy lines. Farmers, shopkeepers, and railroad workers became accidental observers of military movements, passing along details that could shape entire campaigns. Soon these informal efforts coalesced into something more structured when Alan Pinkerton, a Scottish-born detective known for his sharp instincts, was recruited to build a system of intelligence gathering for the Union Army. Pinkerton approached espionage with the mindset of a criminal investigator, creating files on Confederate leaders, recruiting agents skilled in disguise, and organizing networks that could collect information without drawing suspicion. Under his direction, operatives posed as traders, refugees, and laborers, embedding themselves in communities where soldiers moved freely and secrets were spoken carelessly in crowded taverns. In the South, Confederate leaders faced the same urgent need to understand their enemy, but with fewer resources and less industrial infrastructure. Still, necessity sharpened their creativity. Confederate intelligence networks relied heavily on civilian volunteers who believed fiercely in their cause. Young men and women carried messages across dangerous territory, often hiding notes in clothing seams or memorizing critical details to avoid leaving written evidence behind. Southern sympathizers in northern cities watched troop movements, listened to political conversations, and quietly transmitted information southward. These efforts revealed how espionage blurred the line between soldier and civilian, turning everyday life into a stage for covert activity where even a simple train ride could become a mission of immense consequence. The expanding use of the telegraph transformed intelligence gathering into a race against time. Messages could travel across vast distances within minutes, allowing commanders to coordinate movements with unprecedented speed. Yet this same technology also created vulnerabilities. As telegraph lines could be intercepted or monitored, both sides began developing systems to encode messages, aware that a single captured telegram could reveal strategic plans. Intelligence networks evolved to include signal officers, code breakers, and couriers who understood the importance of secrecy in a world where information moved faster than ever before. The growth of these networks demonstrated how modern warfare was no longer fought solely with muskets and artillery, but with wires, ink, and silent observation. Union intelligence efforts grew increasingly sophisticated as the war progressed. Pinkerton's agents provided detailed reports on Confederate troop numbers and defenses, though their estimates were sometimes overly cautious, influencing generals to delay attacks they might otherwise have launched. Despite imperfections, the intelligence network offered commanders a clearer picture of the battlefield than had ever existed in previous American conflicts. Scouts mapped enemy positions. Balloon observers ascended into the sky to watch movements from above, and signal corps units communicated through flags and torches, creating a web of information that connected distant units into a single strategic vision. Confederate intelligence, though smaller in scale, demonstrated remarkable ingenuity. Agents moved through Washington, Baltimore, and other contested cities, gathering secrets from government officials and military officers who underestimated the quiet individuals sitting beside them at dinner tables. Some operatives used elaborate cover stories to explain their presence in enemy territory, while others relied on the protection of sympathetic communities willing to shelter them despite the risks. Intelligence networks also used secret routes known as spy lines, pathways through forests, rivers, and back roads that allowed couriers to cross dangerous territory undetected. These routes became lifelines through which vital information flowed, connecting distant commanders and enabling coordinated strategies. The success of intelligence networks depended not only on gathering information, but also on interpreting it correctly. Analysts and officers sifted through reports filled with rumors, exaggerations, and conflicting accounts, attempting to separate truth from deception. Mistakes could prove catastrophic, leading armies into ambushes or causing missed opportunities that might have shortened the war. The fog of espionage mirrored the fog of war itself, where uncertainty was constant and decisions carried immense weight. Intelligence work required patience and skepticism, as well as an understanding that even the most trusted sources could be compromised. As the war dragged on, intelligence networks became more centralized and organized. Dedicated bureaus tracked enemy movements, coordinated undercover missions, and developed strategies for counterintelligence. The effort to identify and neutralize enemy spies. Camps established stricter security measures, and soldiers were warned to guard their words carefully. Newspapers, once filled with detailed accounts of troop locations, faced increasing censorship as leaders recognized that public information could serve as a gift to enemy agents. The growth of these intelligence systems marked a turning point in American military history, reflecting the transition from traditional warfare to a more modern, information-driven approach. Behind every report and coded message stood individuals living lives of quiet danger. Agents often worked alone, cut off from recognition or support, carrying secrets that could never be shared even with family members. Some operated for months under assumed identities, forging relationships that might later be sacrificed for the sake of intelligence. Their successes remained hidden, their failures sometimes punished with imprisonment or execution, yet their work provided commanders with insights that shaped campaigns, influenced decisions, and altered the trajectory of battles across vast landscapes. Intelligence networks also revealed the deep divisions within American society as neighbors informed on neighbors and communities became battlegrounds for loyalty and suspicion. Trust became a rare commodity, aced by constant vigilance and the fear that anyone might be watching, listening, or reporting to an unseen authority. The growth of espionage transformed the war from a series of distant clashes into a conflict that penetrated homes, businesses, and everyday interactions, creating an atmosphere where secrecy became as common as conversation, and where the invisible struggle for information unfolded alongside the visible clash of armies moving toward uncertain horizons without knowing which whispered report would shape the next decision, or which unseen observer might be waiting just beyond the edge of awareness. In the hidden war of the Civil War, one of the most unexpected forces shaping intelligence efforts came from women who moved quietly through spaces men often overlooked. In a society that underestimated their influence, many women found opportunities to gather secrets simply by listening, observing, and understanding the rhythms of conversation. Parlors, dinner tables, hospitals, and social gatherings became unofficial intelligence hubs where information flowed freely, often without suspicion. Officers relaxed their guard in the presence of women they assumed to be detached from military affairs, speaking openly about troop movements, supply shortages, and political tensions. These seemingly ordinary interactions created pathways through which critical intelligence traveled, reshaping how both sides understood the battlefield. Women spies operated in environments where performance was survival. They crafted identities carefully, choosing clothing, language, and mannerisms that reinforced the roles society expected them to play. Some posed as loyal supporters of Confederacy while secretly aiding the Union, while others embraced the image of refined Southern hostesses to gather intelligence for Confederate commanders. Their ability to blend into everyday life made them uniquely effective, allowing them to cross checkpoints, enter restricted spaces, and maintain communication networks without drawing the suspicion that male agents often faced. Every gesture carried meaning, every conversation carried risk, and every relationship became a delicate balance between authenticity and deception. Harriet Tubman stands among the most remarkable figures in this secret world. Known widely for her leadership in the Underground Railroad, she became an intelligence asset for the Union Army, using her deep knowledge of Southern terrain and networks within enslaved communities to gather crucial information. Tubman organized scouting missions that mapped riverways, identified safe passages, and revealed Confederate defenses. Her work culminated in the Combahee River Raid of 1863, where Union forces liberated hundreds of enslaved people and disrupted Confederate supply lines. Tubman's intelligence efforts demonstrated how espionage and liberation could intertwine, transforming the struggle for freedom into a strategic advantage on the battlefield. Confederate spy Rose O'Neal Greenhow used her social connections in Washington, D.C. to access high-level conversations among Union politicians and military leaders. She hosted elegant gatherings where influential figures spoke candidly, unaware that their words would later be transmitted southward in coded messages. Greenhow's intelligence reportedly contributed to Confederate success at the First Battle of Bull Run, providing insight into Union troop movements and strategic intentions. Her ability to navigate elite circles revealed the power of social espionage, where charm and persuasion became tools as potent as any weapon. Belle Boyd, another Confederate operative, exemplified the daring spirit that defined many women spies. She charmed Union officers stationed in occupied territories, gathering details about troop deployments and relaying them through secret channels. Boyd often carried messages hidden within personal belongings, relying on her reputation as a young Southern woman to evade scrutiny. Her boldness attracted attention, and she was arrested multiple times, yet she continued her intelligence work with a resilience that underscored the risks women willingly embraced in the pursuit of their cause. Elizabeth Van Lew, a Unionist living in Confederate Richmond, created one of the most effective intelligence networks within the South. She recruited freed enslaved individuals, local sympathizers, and even members of her own household to observe Confederate activity and transmit information northward. Van Lew adopted the persona of an eccentric recluse to deflect suspicion, using her perceived harmlessness as a shield while operating a complex web of espionage. Her network smuggled reports out of Richmond using coded messages hidden in eggshells and other everyday objects, demonstrating the ingenuity required to survive in a city teeming with Confederate loyalty. Many women spies worked as nurses or volunteers in military hospitals, where they gained access to wounded soldiers from both sides. In these intimate spaces, pain lowered defenses, and soldiers often spoke openly about their experiences on the battlefield. Women, listening carefully, could piece together patterns of movement, identify vulnerable supply lines, and uncover strategic weaknesses. The role of caregiver provided both cover and opportunity. blending compassion with covert observation in a way that revealed the complex moral terrain of espionage. Communication methods developed by women spies often relied on subtlety and creativity. Invisible ink made from lemon juice allowed letters to appear ordinary until heated over a flame. Codes hidden within seemingly innocent correspondence turned family updates into detailed intelligence reports. Some women used sewing patterns or embroidery to conceal messages within fabric designs, while others memorized information to avoid leaving written traces that could lead to their capture. These methods reflected both the resourcefulness of individual agents and the broader networks that supported them, networks built on trust, shared risk, and a deep belief in the importance of their mission. The dangers faced by women spies were immense. Discovery could lead to imprisonment, public humiliation, or execution. They operated in a society that often dismissed their political agency, leaving them without the protections afforded to soldiers recognized as legitimate combatants. Yet this same underestimation became a powerful advantage, allowing them to operate with a level of freedom rarely granted to male operatives. Their success depended on maintaining the illusion of innocence while carrying secrets that could change the course of battles. Social espionage blurred the boundaries between public and private life, forming homes into meeting places for covert planning and everyday correspondence into vessels for strategic communication. Women navigated emotional complexities as they formed genuine relationships with individuals they might later betray for the sake of intelligence. The psychological toll of living dual identities often remained hidden as agents balanced personal loyalties with political convictions in a world where trust was fragile and betrayal carried profound consequences. The contributions of women spies challenged traditional gender roles, demonstrating that courage and strategic thinking were not confined to the battlefield. Their actions expanded the scope of warfare, revealing how influence, observation, and communication could shape military outcomes as decisively as any cavalry charge. They gathered fragments of information from whispered conversations, piecing together intelligence that commanders relied upon to make critical decisions. Their presence in the shadows of history underscores the reality that wars are fought not only by those who carry weapons, but also by those who carry secrets through crowded rooms filled with laughter, music, and the quiet exchange of words that could alter destinies before dawn even had a chance to rise over cities divided by fear and uncertainty while they continued to move silently through the corridors of power and ordinary life, listening for the slightest hint of truth hidden within the ordinary rhythms of conversation and memory. As armies clashed across fields and rivers during the Civil War, another battle unfolded through ink, symbols, and hidden language. Communication was the lifeblood of military strategy. Every written word risked interception. Both the Union and the Confederacy quickly realized that information carried openly could become a weapon used against them. Out of this urgency emerged a world where language itself became a battlefield, where messages were disguised behind layers of meaning, and where secrecy depended on the ability to transform ordinary words into coded signals understood only by trusted allies. At the start of the war, many officers relied on straightforward letters or telegraph messages, assuming speed would outweigh the risks of exposure. This assumption proved dangerous as intercepted communications revealed troop movements and strategic intentions. Military leaders began experimenting with substitution ciphers, replacing letters with numbers or alternate symbols to obscure meaning. These early codes were often simple, but represented a turning point in American warfare, reflecting an awareness that communication required protection just as urgently as supply lines or defensive fortifications. The telegraph revolutionized communication, allowing commands to travel across vast distances within minutes rather than days. However, telegraph lines also created vulnerabilities because messages could be tapped or copied by enemy operators. To counter this risk, both sides developed codebooks that transformed entire phrases into short numerical sequences. A seemingly innocent string of numbers might carry instructions for troop deployments or warnings of incoming attacks. Telegraph operators became trusted gatekeepers of information, responsible not only for transmitting messages, but also for guarding secrets that could influence the outcome of entire campaigns. Invisible ink became one of the most intriguing tools of Civil War espionage. Made from substances such as lemon juice or milk, the ink allowed agents to write hidden messages between the lines of ordinary correspondence, A letter might appear to contain nothing more than family updates or mundane observations, yet when heated over a flame, the true message emerged. This method allowed spies to bypass censorship and inspection, relying on the assumption that enemy officers would see only what appeared obvious on the page. The practice required careful training, as poorly prepared ink could reveal itself prematurely or fail to appear when needed. Signal flags introduced a visual language that allowed communication across battlefields without the need for written messages. Union Signal Corps units developed systems of flag waving that encoded letters and phrases through specific patterns of movement. Soldiers stationed on hills or towers relayed messages from one unit to another, creating chains of communication that could span miles. At night, torches replaced flags, flickering against dark skies to transmit commands through coded sequences of light. These systems required discipline and precision, as a single mistaken movement could alter the meaning of an entire message. Confederate forces developed their own signaling methods, often adapting to the challenges of limited resources. Couriers played a crucial role in carrying written codes between commanders, navigating forests and rivers to deliver messages that could not be transmitted through vulnerable telegraph lines. Some messages were written using null ciphers, a technique in which the true GE was hidden within an apparently ordinary text. By reading every third word or following a predetermined pattern, recipients could uncover instructions invisible to casual readers. This method relied on shared understanding between sender and receiver, creating an unspoken bond of trust. Code breaking emerged as a critical skill, as both sides attempted to decipher enemy communications. Analysts examined intercepted messages, searching for patterns that could reveal hidden meaning. Frequency analysis allowed code breakers to identify commonly used letters or phrases, gradually unraveling substitution ciphers that once seemed impenetrable. The process required patience and creativity, as well as an understanding of linguistic habits and military terminology. Successful code breaking provided invaluable insights into enemy strategies, allowing commanders to anticipate movements and exploit weaknesses before battles even began. Some intelligence officers experimented with complex cipher disks, rotating devices that allowed messages to be encoded using shifting alphabets. By aligning specific letters with predetermined keys, senders could create messages that appeared meaningless without knowledge of the disk's configuration. These devices reflected the growing sophistication of wartime communication, as both sides sought methods that could withstand interception and analysis. However, the complexity of such systems also introduced challenges, as mistakes in encoding or decoding could lead to confusion or misinterpretation at critical moments. Personal correspondence served as another channel for hidden communication. Letters between family members or friends often contain subtle references that carried strategic meaning. A mention of weather conditions might signal troop readiness, while descriptions of crops or travel plans could hint at supply levels or military movements. These coded phrases relied on shared cultural references and prearranged signals, turning everyday language into a secret code understood only by those within the network. This blending of ordinary life with covert communication illustrated how espionage permeated even the most intimate forms of interaction. Military camps established censorship offices where outgoing and incoming mail was reviewed for suspicious content. Censors learned to recognize common coding techniques, forcing spies to constantly adapt their methods. The ongoing battle between codemakers and codebreakers mirrored the larger conflict, reflecting a dynamic struggle in which innovation and countermeasures evolved side by side. Each new technique inspired new defenses, creating an arms race of language and secrecy that paralleled the development of weapons and battlefield tactics. The success of coded communication depended not only on technical skill, but also on human discipline. Soldiers and spies were trained to memorize keys, destroy sensitive documents, and maintain silence even under interrogation. Trust became the foundation of communication networks, as a single compromised individual could expose entire systems. Miscommunication posed its own dangers, with errors in decoding sometimes leading to delayed reinforcements or misdirected attacks. The complexity of these systems revealed the fragility of wartime communication, where clarity and secrecy existed in constant tension. Beyond the mechanics of codes and ciphers lay the emotional weight carried by those who used them. Spies writing invisible messages knew that discovery could mean imprisonment or death. Telegraph operators understood that a single intercepted transmission might change the course of a campaign. Signal officers waving flags across open fields risked becoming targets for enemy sharpshooters aware that their movements carried commands that could determine the fate of thousands. Communication became an act of courage, a silent commitment to the cause that required vigilance, precision, and unwavering focus. While messages continued to travel through hidden channels and coded phrases moved quietly across battlefields and cities, shaping decisions that would ripple outward into battles not yet fought and futures not yet imagined within a war where words themselves became instruments of power and survival, intertwined within every symbol carefully written and every signal carefully sent across uncertain horizons filled with tension and fragile hope. In the shadowy world of Civil War espionage, few figures carried a burden as heavy as the double agents, individuals who lived between loyalties, navigating a fragile existence built on deception. They occupied a space where truth became fluid and identity became performance, presenting one face to Union officers while quietly delivering secrets to Confederate commanders, or appearing to serve the Confederacy while feeding intelligence northward. Unlike traditional spies who operated against a clear enemy, double agents lived with constant uncertainty, never fully trusted by either side, and always at risk of exposure from a single careless word or suspicious glance. The chaotic early years of the war created fertile ground for double agents. Communities divided by politics and geography allowed individuals to move between territories under the guise of trade, family visits, or neutral business dealings. Some agents were motivated by ideology, deeply committed to one cause but willing to pretend allegiance to another to gather intelligence. Others were driven by survival, navigating shifting front lines where loyalty became a matter of circumstance rather than conviction. A few pursued personal gain, accepting payment from both sides while carefully managing the flow of information to maintain their usefulness and avoid suspicion. Union intelligence networks quickly recognized the strategic value of infiltrating Confederate circles through agents who could present themselves as sympathetic Southerners. These operatives attended gatherings where officers relaxed and spoke openly about troop movements or supply shortages. They listened carefully, memorizing details that would later be encoded and transmitted to Union commanders. The success of these missions depended on deep psychological understanding, as double agents needed to anticipate questions, craft believable stories, and respond convincingly under pressure. Every conversation became a performance, every interaction a test of credibility. Confederate intelligence employed similar tactics, recruiting individuals capable of embedding themselves within Union communities. Some double agents posed as defectors seeking refuge in northern cities, gaining access to military camps and government offices. They cultivated relationships with soldiers and officials, learning to mirror language and attitudes that reinforced their assumed identities. These operatives often lived for months or years under false pretenses, developing friendships that could later be exploited for intelligence. The emotional toll of maintaining these relationships was profound, as agents balanced genuine human connection with the necessity of deception. One of the most complex aspects of double agent work involved the careful management of information. Agents rarely delivered complete truths. Instead, they blended accurate intelligence with subtle distortions designed to mislead the enemy. Feeding false information required strategic calculation, as lies had to be believable enough to influence decisions without revealing the agent's duplicity. Both sides attempted to turn captured spies into double agents through coercion or promises of leniency, creating a web of conflicting loyalties where no message could be trusted entirely. Counterintelligence units grew increasingly focused on identifying double agents within their own ranks. Officers scrutinized reports for inconsistencies, monitored correspondence for hidden meanings, and observed behavior for signs of divided allegiance. Suspicion became a constant presence in military camps, eroding trust and fostering an atmosphere of quiet paranoia. Even highly valued informants faced interrogation and surveillance, aware that their contributions could be overshadowed by a single accusation of betrayal. The hunt for double agents mirrored the broader struggle of the war, reflecting a conflict not only between armies but within individual hearts and minds. Women played significant roles as double agents, arroging social expectations that often shielded them from suspicion. Some cultivated relationships with officers from both sides, gathering intelligence through casual conversations and social events. Their ability to move between public and private spaces allowed them to collect details that might otherwise remain hidden. These agents navigated a delicate balance between charm and caution, knowing that discovery could lead to imprisonment or worse. Their work demonstrated how social dynamics could become strategic tools, turning ordinary interactions into opportunities for covert intelligence gathering. Transportation networks, such as railroads and riverboats, provided double agents with opportunities to move between territories while maintaining cover stories that explained their presence. Merchants transporting goods, journalists reporting on events, and medical volunteers traveling to care for wounded soldiers often found themselves in positions where information flowed freely. Some agents used these roles to observe troop movements, overhear strategic discussions, or access official documents. The constant movement required adaptability, as agents needed to adjust their identities to match new environments and audiences while preserving the core narrative that sustained their credibility. The psychological strain of living as a double agent was immense. Many experienced isolation, unable to confide in anyone about their true loyalties. Letters home often concealed the reality of their lives, replacing truth with carefully constructed stories designed to protect loved ones from danger. Fear became a constant companion as agents faced the possibility of execution if exposed by either side. The pressure to maintain multiple identities sometimes led to emotional exhaustion, blurring the boundaries between genuine belief and fabricated allegiance until agents themselves struggled to remember who they truly were. Despite these risks, double agents influenced the course of numerous campaigns by shaping the flow of information between opposing forces. They provided insights into enemy morale, exposed weaknesses in defensive positions, and occasionally redirected entire armies through carefully crafted misinformation. Their work demonstrated that victory in modern warfare depended not only on strength, but on perception, on the ability to shape an opponent's understanding of reality. Each successful deception altered the strategic landscape, creating opportunities that commanders could exploit while remaining unaware of the hidden individuals whose actions made such victories possible. The presence of double agents transformed the Civil War into a conflict where truth became elusive and trust became fragile. Soldiers learned to guard their words even among supposed allies, aware that anyone could be listening with divided intentions. Commanders faced difficult decisions about which reports to believe, balancing the need for intelligence with the risk of manipulation. Within this environment of uncertainty, double agents thrived, weaving through layers of secrecy and deception while constantly redefining loyalty as both a personal conviction and a strategic performance shaped by circumstance and necessity within a war that demanded not only courage, but the willingness to live in shadows where every step carried the weight of two opposing RLDs pressing quietly against a single hidden identity. Behind the daring missions and secret victories of Civil War espionage lay a quieter and more complicated reality, the moral dilemmas faced by those who operated in secrecy and the lasting legacy their actions left behind. Spies and intelligence officers did not fight in open formations where courage was publicly recognized. Instead, they worked in shadows where success often depended on deception, manipulation, and betrayal. Every coded message carried ethical weight, every false identity demanded a sacrifice of personal truth, and every secret operation forced individuals to confront questions that blurred the line between necessity and conscience. For many agents, the first moral challenge emerged when they were asked to deceive people who trusted them. Double lives required the creation of friendships built on lies, relationships that felt genuine but were ultimately tools for gathering information. Spies attended dinners, listened to stories of family and loss, and shared laughter with individuals they might later betray. These experiences created emotional conflict as agents struggled to reconcile personal compassion with strategic objectives. The act of extracting secrets from someone who believed they were confiding in a friend became a recurring source of internal tension that lingered long after missions ended. Another ethical struggle arose from the use of misinformation as a weapon. Intelligence networks sometimes fed false reports to enemy commanders, deliberately steering armies into vulnerable positions or delaying reinforcements. While such tactics could save lives on one side, they also contribute to casualties on the other, raising questions about the morality of winning through deception rather than direct confrontation. Some agents justified these actions as necessary to shorten the war, believing that strategic manipulation could ultimately reduce overall suffering. Others carried lingering guilt, aware that their words had shaped events that led to loss and destruction. The treatment of captured spies highlighted the harsh realities of wartime ethics. Unlike uniformed soldiers who were recognized as lawful combatants, spies often faced execution if discovered. Military tribunals operated quickly, and mercy was rare. Agents knew that they risked not only death, but also the denial of honor or recognition. This awareness forced individuals to consider the personal cost of their work, balancing devotion to their cause against the possibility of an unmarked grave. Families often received little information about the fate of captured agents, leaving loved ones to cope with uncertainty and grief without closure. Espionage also influenced civilian life in ways that raised profound moral questions. Communities became spaces of suspicion, where neighbors reported on neighbors and everyday conversations were tinged with fear. Governments encouraged citizens to remain vigilant, creating an atmosphere where loyalty was constantly tested. While such vigilance could uncover genuine threats, it also led to false accusations and fractured relationships. Innocent individuals sometimes suffered consequences based on rumors or misunderstandings, revealing how the pursuit of security could erode trust within society itself. Women and men who served as spies faced unique emotional burdens that shaped their sense of identity. Living under assumed names required constant performance, blurring the boundaries between personal belief and adopted persona. Some agents discovered that the longer they remained undercover, the more difficult it became to reconnect with their original sense of self. Letters home often concealed the truth, forcing agents to maintain emotional distance from family members who could never fully understand the realities of their work. The silence surrounding espionage created invisible wounds, as individuals carried experiences they could not openly share. Despite these challenges, espionage also demonstrated the resilience and creativity of individuals who believed deeply in their causes. Intelligence networks brought together people from diverse backgrounds, former slaves, wealthy socialites, farmers, immigrants, all contributing to a shared mission of gathering and protecting information. Their work revealed how ordinary citizens could shape extraordinary events, expanding the definition of participation in war beyond traditional battlefield roles. The courage required to operate alone, often without recognition, reflected a form of heroism rooted in quiet determination rather than public acclaim. The legacy of Civil War espionage extended far beyond the conflict itself, influencing the development of modern intelligence practices. Techniques such as coded communication, undercover infiltration, and organized counterintelligence became foundational elements of future military operations. The experiences of Civil War spies demonstrated the necessity of structured intelligence systems, leading to the eventual creation of formal agencies dedicated to national security. Lessons learned from the successes and failures of wartime espionage shaped how later generations approached conflicts in an increasingly interconnected world. At the same time, the moral complexities of espionage continued to resonate in debates about the balance between security and ethics. The Civil War raised enduring questions about how far a nation should go to protect itself and whether deception could ever be fully reconciled with democratic values. Historians examining the ERA have noted how intelligence work challenged traditional notions of honor, forcing societies to reconsider what it meant to fight for a just cause while employing methods rooted in secrecy and manipulation. These debates echoed through subsequent wars, influencing policies and public perceptions of intelligence operations. Personal stories of former spies revealed the long-term emotional impact of living in secrecy. Some agents returned to civilian life, struggling with isolation, haunted by memories of missions that could never be publicly acknowledged. Others found themselves celebrated as heroes, yet felt disconnected from the public narratives that simplified their experiences into tales of daring adventure. The contrast between private reality and public perception highlighted the complexities of interpreting espionage history, reminding observers that behind every legend existed a human being grappling with choices made under extraordinary pressure. Museums, memoirs, and historical scholarship gradually brought greater recognition to the contributions of spies and intelligence networks, ensuring that their stories would not remain entirely hidden. Researchers uncovered letters, code books, and personal accounts that illuminated the intricate world of wartime secrecy. These discoveries allowed later generations to better understand the human dimensions of espionage, the fears, hopes, and moral struggles that shaped decisions made in moments of uncertainty. The preservation of these stories transformed the secret war from a collection of whispered legends into a vital chapter of American history. Through their actions, Civil War spies left a legacy that extended beyond military strategy into the realm of cultural memory and ethical reflection. They revealed the power of information as both a tool of protection and a source of profound moral challenge. Their experiences forced societies to confront the costs of secrecy, the fragility of trust, and the enduring tension between truth and survival. Within their stories lies a reminder that history is shaped not only by visible battles, but by invisible choices made in silence, choices that continue to influence how nations approach conflict, intelligence, and the delicate balance between honor and necessity within a world where the shadows of past decisions still linger quietly in the collective memory of generations who continue to wrestle with the legacy of a war fought not only with weapons, but with secrets carried in the hearts of those who walked unseen paths between loyalty and conscience. Thanks for watching this video, and Don T. Forget to like and subscribe.